Now for all of you who came to this video after reading the title and thumb, you may be thinking, holy crap Pez, are you really going there? Yes I am. 10 ways that Donald Trump is exactly like President Shinra. Buckle up, this is gonna get really spicy. And I'm giving a trigger warning because that's a thing now, supposedly. Let's go! Starting at number 1, and the most obvious, the money. They are both powerful, rich as fuck businessmen who ascended to the rank of most powerful person in the world. Though I think their methods are a bit different. I kind of doubt that President Shinra used Chapter 11 and filed bankruptcy 6 times as a business tool to get there. But, admittedly draining the planet of its life force is way worse than what Trump did, but still neither exactly something to be hugely proud of, is it? At number 2, build a wall. Now admittedly Trump's wall is not yet up, but give the guy a break, he's been in there just over 100 days. But I do wonder about the logistics and the financing of the wall that surrounds Midgar. I don't know, maybe they made Khan pay for it. At number 3, and I'm going to go hard and heavy because I've already pissed Donald Trump fans off at this point, so I might as well just continue and just go balls to the walls with this. Don't give a shit about the lives of poor people. So, with Trump throwing 24 million people off health insurance recently this week, all while giving a 600 billion tax cut to the rich. It's pretty much a Midgar plate structure. Anyone below the plate, a big fat fuck you. Anyone above the plate, let's make your life a little bit cozier. With 5 studies published in the American Journal of Public Health stating that this plan will kill an extra 24,000 people. 24,000 extra dead, just like that, because it's the only modern nation where healthcare is not a right. I mean, you may as well just collapse the pillow and drop the fucking plate. It's more or less the same thing, killing off the population's poorest and most undesirable. Can't make Midgar great again with the poor fuckers dragging us down, right? And making Midgar great again leads me into number 4, which is this totally deluded fantasy illusion of making a utopian version of the country/city where you live. President Shinra has a plan, a dream that he propagandas to create Neo Midgar, and it will be a superior, greater version of Midgar. Unfortunately, his plan isn't actually grounded in reality or any kind of political substance. It's actually based on a fairy tale. In Shinra's case, it's finding a mythical promised land and making assumptions on how they can harness it. In Trump's case, it's believing that a country can be run like a company and fuck things like compassion and looking after the weakest. No, fuck all that. Make America great again. America's for the strong and the hard-working. And if you can't keep up, then you're fired. Except being fired in this scenario means poverty, homelessness and or death, and like already covered, Trump's standards of running a country like a business basically means bankrupting the shit out of it and then slipping out the back door. Make Midgar great again. In at number 5, and this is going to take me a while to explain, but I'm just going to cruise through this, it's draining the swamp to replace it with the super swamp. The Deluxe Swamp, the Swamp Festa 3000, and of course I'm going to be talking about his administration picks. The parallels between Trump's administration and President Shinra's is scary. Let's start with Heidegger. He is the James Mattis, the military dude, the one who Trump has just recently assigned to Defense Secretary. And could you imagine Heidegger doing or saying any of these things? It's fun to shoot people. I'll be right up there with you. I like brawling. Or how about bad things happen in wars? I don't have to apologise for the conduct of my men after dropping a bomb on a wedding of 42 civilians. James Mattis is about as bad as it gets. What happened in Fallujah, Iraq in 2014/15, I can't remember which. He killed so many civilians there and committed so many war crimes that the local soccer field had to be turned into a mass grave. It is simply a fact that James Mattis is an unprosecuted war criminal, and he was so erratic in who he would target and kill that's how he earned the name of James Mad Dog Mattis. Fantastic defensive secretary pick, and I could really see Heidegger getting called Mad Dog. Palmer in Shinra's administration is the Wilbur Rosses of Trump's, and he's just recently assigned him to Commerce Secretary, but he's an investor specialising in buying up distressed businesses, and that's exactly what Palmer kind of is. Palmer spends the entire time trying to get investments and funding for the space program, which is exactly what Wilbur Ross kind of is, who is now your commerce secretary and a billionaire investor who happened to have saved 3 of Donald Trump's Atlantic City's casinos in 1990 when Trump's real estate empire was so heavily in debt. Totally unbiased pick, no money involved. Wilbur Ross was just clearly the man for the job. But moving on to Reeve, and this hurts me to say this because Reeve Tuetzi is actually a good guy. So at least Shinra's administration had one decent guy in it. So I suppose by this metric, Trump's administration is kind of worse because the equivalent of Reeve would be far-right extremist Jeff Sessions. He's the Attorney General, and Jeff Sessions is a well-renowned racist who thinks that the KKK were, quote, okay, until I learned that they smoked marijuana. His voting record is that he has blocked just about every single bill that has come under his nose that would improve the lives of the common people, and that includes raising the minimum wage, gay marriage, a bill that would have shifted $11 billion of tax loopholes to education, and more human rights bills that I care to count or cover in this video. So yeah, by this standard, Shinra's administration is actually better than Trump's, but Pez, how are they similar in any way? Well, there is one similarity between Reeve and Jeff Sessions, is that Jeff Sessions was in favour and is in favour of government spying. And considering Reeve is a spy and he creates Kate Sith, which is a piece of spying technology, I think they're both in favour of spying, so there's that, kind of. Busting through the last few, Lazard du Syracuse is Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin is the Goldman Sachs crook who used fraud as a business model and illegally laundered sickening amounts of money, which is exactly what Lazard got caught doing in Crisis Core. But whereas Lazard actually paid for his laundering crimes, it got turned into a Genesis copy. Steve Mnuchin, he got off a little bit lighter, being appointed to Treasury Secretary of the entire damn country. You couldn't make this shit up. And last but not least, in Shinra's administration, we have the lovely, and by lovely I mean repulsive, and I'm glad Tifa smacked the shit out of this cow, Scarlett. And Scarlett is the John Kerry of Trump's administration because John Kelly, he's the Secretary of Homeland Security, but he has a history of being involved in overseas campaigns. He was involved in Iraq, so Scarlett kind of fits that role. She is the weapons secretary, but we saw in the game she also had quite a hands-on approach in appearing in certain locations. And they are more or less the same person as well, because John Kelly, he was caught lying throughout his career that he was in fact a vice chairman of a company called Spectrum. Spectrum being a defense contract lobbying firm. So literally someone whose career is to try to get America and the American government to spend as much as humanly possible in the already grossly overinflated military industrial complex that America has. He is hugely behind it. He is the one who's been pushing it. He wants it as beefed up as humanly possible, and he is now defense secretary. That's exactly who Scarlett is. She wants as much funding from Shinra for her program, and she just so happens to be the one who is succeeding in it and is getting the most funding. So holy shit, there it is. Trump Swamp is a mirror image of President Shinra Swamp, except that Trump's might be slightly worse because, again, that Reeve Tuetzi pick. Number 6, ramping up in the Middle East and in major support of permanent occupation, despite saying otherwise on the campaign trail. Now, I don't know what President Shinra's campaign trail said, but permanent occupation is certainly a part of President Shinra's business model because with Wutai, they don't specifically own it or run it, or they haven't conquered it. They came to a peace treaty deal, but the Shinra military are still occupying that region. Now, admittedly, the map is flipped, and Wutai is in fact in the far west and not the far east like Iraq. But the mirror is still there, especially when Trump is now saying that he's building on plans towards permanent occupation in Iraq, despite saying he was against the war and was not interested in all these interventions and playing the global chessboard. Now, admittedly, Trump's foreign policy is nowhere near as extreme as President Shinra's. I will concede that, I will grant that, but then also the fact that Trump says that we should go into Middle Eastern countries and steal their natural resources. Like literally just steal their oil, take the oil. Tremendous, believe me. It's still a pretty fucked up foreign policy. So yeah, fucked up foreign policies. That's going to make number 6. And number 7 is kind of going to be the same thing because I see a lot of parallels between North Korea and Sapphire Weapon. It was just a big fuck off dangerous weapon that everyone knew was dangerous, but it was more than happy to just be dangerous and alone, so everyone kind of just left it alone until Shinra went and stuck his nose in, aka Trump, and caused the events that led up to its awakening. That awakening being that because North Korea is now feeling provoked, they have now readied their military for war, they've readied their missile systems, and they've mapped America as an enemy who they will happily strike if so much as the slightest hint any kind of move against them is seen. They will happily strike, so they say. Whether it's bluster, we don't really know. Pretty much what Sapphire weapon was for the planet, and if there was any kind of a threat, it was going to attack back and retaliate. And of course, what did Shinra do? They pointed a big fuck off sister ray straight in its damn face, and the sister ray parallel with Trump is the new missile systems that he has gone and positioned in South Korea and various Far East Asian borders. So it's basically a totally unnecessary and provocative face-off between two very big scary weapons, and I often wonder, will it come down to just one of them firing first, or will it be just like FF7 and they kind of just both fire at the same time and create a right old fucking mess? But I will also concede this was more Rufus Shinra's reign. President Shinra was out of the picture by this point, but I'm still counting it. It counts. At number 8 of uncanny parallels between Trump and President Shinra, I'm going to go with his main opponent is a vile galactic parasite from outer space who gets what it wants through manipulation and straight up bullshit. At number 9, I'm going doesn't give a fuck about the planet. I kind of realised at point number 1 I gave Donald Trump a free pass, kind of saying Shinra were worse because they were draining the life's resources whereas Trump wasn't, but then I kind of realised that's not true. Now don't get me confused here guys, I'm really not some huge environment fanatic and or hippie, but at least I have the common sense to know that you need to take at least a bit of care for your planet, and yes indeed, mankind is causing climate change because that's just a scientific fact, and we really should take steps towards keeping the planet safe, but not according to Donald Trump, because one of the first things he did was pull America out of the Paris Agreement, which was a 2015 climate change accord which was reached by 200 nations to cut greenhouse gas emissions, and he shat on the entire deal. He even assigned Scott Pruitt as the head of the EPA. That's the Environmental Protection Agency, and this pick is just about as swampish as you can imagine as all the other picks, because Scott Pruitt is someone who has for years filed lawsuit after lawsuit against the EPA, wants to shut them down, is a climate change denier, and has taken over $500,000 from the fossil fuel industry. He is now the head of the EPA. The guy who doesn't believe in the EPA and has done nothing but try to cap it is now the head of it. Are you joking, mate? Really? I mean, this shit blew my mind, and it goes on to get even worse when things like on the EPA's website just recently, they removed all of the scientific climate change pages from the site. But you know what they said about the Scott Pruitt pick? They said that he was a good pick because he had been appealing against the EPA for so long. He knew how the system and the industry worked. That's like appointing a mass murderer and or robber to the position of sheriff and saying it's because he knows the industry well. Scott Pruitt is the EPA's version of a mass murderer. And when Trump does things like this, you kind of have to say this is another similarity between him and President Shinra, that they both do not give a flying fuck about the planet, the resources they're using. And like I said, this is coming from someone who really isn't probably as fanatical about the environment as what I probably should be. But there we go, that's number 9, and finishing this video off with number 10. And I just want to say at this point that I mean no offense by this whatsoever. I followed this a lot. I followed Trump's campaign a lot. I followed a lot of the news that's going over in the States, probably even more ironically than I do here in Britain. But I have nothing but love and sympathy for Americans, the smart ones at least. There's just so many parallels between Shinra and Trump that is scary. Now, I'm not saying Trump's a dictator, because he's not, but he's just so bad. I mean, at this point, it's irrefutable. America done fucked up picking this guy. Now, admittedly, he lied to you guys on the campaign trail, but he is absolutely fucking abysmal, and that's why number 10 is just going to be a very sad encompassment of what I see the American political situation to be, with money in politics and clearly politicians bending to the whims of their donors. Even your current president does it. Despite him saying otherwise, he does it. Now, Donald Trump, who was born with a silver spoon up his arse from the day he was born, has now somehow gone on to be 45th president and the most powerful man in the world, despite having absolutely no integrity, absolutely not being a man of his word, being the most monumental con artist of all time, a showman who has as much political substance as my left nutsack. If he has somehow gone on to become the world's most powerful man who could affect all of us, even me here in Little Britain, this man-child maniac could fuck it up for all of us. And that's why the point number 10 is the very, very sad quote. Shinra's most infamous quote. These days, all it takes for your dreams to come true is money and power. Fuck Donald Trump. I know this is a Final Fantasy channel, and some people aren't going to like what I had to say in this video, and that perhaps some people say, Pez, you should not get political in your Final Fantasy videos, but I stand by it, and there are 10 comparisons between Donald Trump and President Shinra. Stay strong and much love, my American brethren, until the next video. Kubo!